systems for creative production are super important and staying regimented to that. And to be honest with you, none of this stuff really is earth shattering, right? Like there, there is this sense that we know what will work. The before after stuff will always work. Using social proof will always work. UGC testimonial style ads will always work. What it's more about is identifying which one of those is going to result in the largest impact and resonate with your audience. When you talk about kind of like persona development, that's something too, right? You might build out your personas and realize that, okay, the majority of them are within the sector, and so we should focus there. But I think when you're operating at scale, then it becomes more about finding those incremental pockets of audiences that you weren't aware of in the past. So it's probably, keeping things simple when you're first starting and scaling, for businesses that, are spending 10K a month, 50K a month on their entire media mix. My recommendation would be not to over segment, to go with one, 2 to 3 different personas, maybe like 3 to 5 concepts, and just create iterations of that. And then as you scale out, you build out more diversification into your production strategy.
For sure. For sure. And for smaller brands too, like I think it also just comes, it's not so much driven by this, but it's also like, how do you test creative at that point, like in the ad account? So I agree, leaning into a like high priority 2 personas and then prioritizing the creative for each of them. So it's just all high priority stuff is great. But then it's like, how do you launch it in the ad account? Do you separate it into its own campaign? Do you put it into its own ad sets within its own, within a larger campaign that contains evergreen and testing? There's different techniques that you can apply to hopefully get the most out of your spend. And for anyone with larger budgets, what I'd also say there is want to be careful of backing yourself into a corner, where the algorithm just like pushes you away and says, you're going to live here now because all you've given me is this type of creative. So there really is an importance to the big swings that come into play. So the short version of that is like, you can iterate yourself into a corner. I love iteration. Don't get me wrong, but those big swings need to come into a play. So you're getting that diversity and access to new audiences who you might not have before.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Uh, my overarching philosophy generally is that, in terms of your like net new creative production, some percentage should be completely big swing concepts, and a certain percentage should be iterations. And that mix will vary depending on how conservative you want to be, right? So like, I think a good, 80/20 is like 80% iteration. And so you're still developing new things, but you're being conservative. 20% completely new concepts.